Anyway, recapping my debate with Asmon. What else? Brandon finally finds a red line for embargo. Israel continues its mass starvation campaign in North Gaza. Election nears as polls shift in Trump's favor. Kamala's black men outreach and more. Get in now. I think they're doing it to save face before Trump wins, so people know what. I have a blast off save from yesterday. I know. Thank you. Did you see Maloney suggested sending UN troops to stop Israel? What? No fucking way. Are you serious? That's awesome. I did not see that. What is she talking about? I love when like random fucking puppets of the American empire turn around and just have like cool pop-off moments like out of nowhere. It's one of my favorite takes. Like Erdogan does this too. It's like so obvious that these guys work for they work at the behest of American empire, right? It's very clear. It's very obvious. But having said that, they will randomly just be like, they will just randomly have a take. It's like Viktor Orban being like, well, I think we need to have a better relationship with China. It's like, what? Like, where is this coming from? Who are you? Like, what do you mean? You're Viktor Orban. What are you talking about? It's just, I don't know. It's always like some random shit. Like you got it'll be like the Albanian prime minister being like, actually, I think we need to stop only one type of unnecessary extraction from the fucking global south. Only one on one of the hyper specific conflict minerals. I'm making this up. I don't think he said this, but like out of nowhere, they'll just like pop off on some shit. Our dear leader Orban has always been kind of pro-China. Yeah, I know. He knows where his bread is buttered, baby. Hassan, how do you interpret a 13 keys election prediction model? I don't. I really do love you, man, but I question the efficacy of yesterday. He's a giant POS. That I get that there might be some people in the margins of his community, but if we're watching him through this arc, is very likely much on board already, and he just used you as a 3-hour attempt to rehab his image of truly incomprehensible shit he said and believes. Yeah, I don't see it that way at all. I don't think he rehabbed his image at all throughout that process. But here's the thing. The way I view it is, and I will describe this one more time for many of you that simply fail to comprehend this. Okay? I rate everything on a curve. That's number one. Number two, I have this understanding, especially as someone whose name is Hassan, who is like a white dude, but still someone who grew up in Turkey, someone who is Muslim, from a Muslim background. No, that the average person is unimaginably Islamophobic. I've dealt with it for damn near a decade since I came to the United States of America. Okay? When I'm talking to a person individually and maintaining my composure and working through the steps, step by step, and explaining why someone is bigoted or someone's opinion is wrong or bigoted, offering historically relevant information, okay? There's a reason for that. The reason is I might not change his mentality, okay? Other events might play a larger role in his mentality changing on this matter. But there are a shit ton of people who are watching him who are going to respond to that patience, especially respond to the way that I'm communicating, and most likely be more charitable to what I have to say, okay? On any number of different fronts. Because that entire conversation is an information faucet for me. Utilizing virtually every opportunity to talk about different aspects of how, for example, freedom of speech is revoked. Things that a lot of people in his community might not be aware of. It's not like I agreed on his framing. It's not like I agreed to anything he was saying. That's my goal. Do you understand? Even if his perspective might not change on the matter, there's plenty of people in his community that are going to look at the situation differently. And if I get 100 people, in Asmongold's community to look at the situation a little bit differently, learn something new that they hadn't known, then that's it. That's my goal. I've succeeded. If there was any moment where I was like conceding to his framing on the matter, that would be that would be an entirely different conversation. I'm not going to go in front of like a Ben Shapiro type, for example, who I would categorize as simply different than Asmongold as well. But even if I were to go in front of a Ben Shapiro type and have like a relatively cordial conversation, which I would not be able to maintain composure in a similar capacity to Ben Shapiro. He's a professional speaking head. He's a talking head. But here's the thing. There's never going to be a world where I concede to his framing on anything. Just like I did not concede to Asmongold's framing on anything either. And that's how you get comments like this. This debate perfectly illustrates my own internal struggle when it comes to forming a kind and normal view of Middle Eastern people. I come from Poland, raised in a conservative family. I watch a lot of Asmon, and I love Hassan's commentary and the way he presents his arguments with solid factual backing. Listening to this for 3 hours and seeing the insane amount of patience and collection Hassan has had throughout, and also listening to Asmon repeat his point that I used to share over and over again. Actually, okay, well, we don't have the rest of the comment. There are a ton of people in this community that were most likely resilient. Couldn't it be said that his perspective gained more ground too? No, absolutely not. Because his perspective is already the most commonly held perspective in the United States of America. What more ground does his perspective need to get? You understand what I'm saying? You feel me? You smell me? Screenshot of my second link. Actually helped me finally see how weak, stupid, and sad such belief is. Thank you, Hassan, for doing what you do. My life has become healthier because of you. There you go. People forget that streamers like you and Asmon are talking to stadiums full of people every day. A lot of minds can be changed, and it's not too late for them. Yes, there is never a person who I think is above having their mind changed. Okay, I think there's no one that is above having their mind and their heart changed. Now, of course, tactically speaking, there are certain people that I'm not going to be as charitable to. You know, a Ben Shapiro type, or a professional right-wing commentator, or someone in a position of actual power. You have to understand, my commentary is
so much in the conversation.
My commentary is like water, okay? And if you want to understand my method, basically my method is simple. I speak at I give back the same energy that I take. That's number one. Number two, I'm not going to concede to like shit that I don't agree with, no matter what. But more importantly, okay, I also am consistently, and this is something that like I think marginalized people who are professionals, marginalized people who are professional commentary people understand this. Like always, there's always something in the back of your mind. Like if you are a black political commentator, you know that every single thing that you say is going to be under a microscope by a broad audience of predominantly white people who do not have your understanding of the world, who have never empathized with your position. So if you get really angry, for example, that they're going to, even if you're completely correct, it does not matter. The facts in that situation, no matter how hard they are on your side, are irrelevant. Okay? This is just simply how debates and how commentary and how, existing in America in some ways works. That's it. So I am cognizant always of not only the person that I'm talking to and the energy that they give me, that I choose to match. Beyond that, I'm also always thinking about the audience and the way that they are responding to it. You made a video when I was in middle school that my mom showed me before we moved to Dearborn Heights, Michigan, because she wanted me to understand things after she left her racist husband. Jesus Christ, that's crazy. Islamophobia is baked into every orifice of American society. In the post 9/11 universe, the United States of America needed to do this to justify its endless, bloody war campaign as they ravaged the entirety of the MENA region. Okay, and Americans responded to that. So every American, especially over a certain age, chat, what are the laws for gays in Gaza? A gay man in Gaza, his life expectancy? Yeah, dude, anyone in Gaza, their life expectancy is pretty fucking short. That's why, 50% of the entire Gaza Strip is under the age of 18. And that is not because of Hamas or because of Islamist fundamentalism. That's entirely because of Israel. But you can try to keep making a woman in Gaza her life expectancy. Yeah, I think you're making I suspect you're making an anti-Israel argument without recognizing that you're doing that And the median age of people in Gaza is literally 15. Has there ever been a group of people in history that has deserved genocide? No, of course not. That's not how that works. It is genocide is the number one crime. Like the Germans post World War II did not deserve genocide. You know what I mean? Like there is no moral genocide. There is no defensive genocide. A Reddit comment that shows you are right. To be honest, Hassan changed my opinion on it a little bit. Not the fundamental of what Asman was saying, but my look at Palestine, hearing someone who heavily understands it and isn't some random Twitter user posting, hey, look at me, was pretty interesting. The fundamentals of what Asman was saying isn't wrong. And I do mostly agree 100%, but Hassan was pointing out that you can't imply that here. The country and its people aren't in a functioning state, be it because of Hamas, Israel, or outside forces. Hassan was pointing out that Palestine as a people and culture hasn't been able to be who they are for decades because they're consistently being bombed and killed. But in the past, when Palestinians were able to be themselves, this kill all non-believers, rapes and kills for fun and concept never existed in their culture. So he wasn't sure why Asman was assuming that they would. I know some will say, well, they're doing it now. And the point I think Hassan was making is the they is a handful of people, and they're only doing it because there's no established ruling or government and do not represent the rest of the people. The majority of people aren't able to sort this out, stand up, or call it out because the country is constantly being destabilized. I don't think going against the only group that's fighting against the constant destabilization is a smart thing to do. It's a die by Hamas or die by Israel situation, in my honest opinion. So the only thing most Palestinians' minds is how this survived the day. That's awesome that this person who still has like resilient Islamophobic sentiment baked into his argument is like so close to fully recognizing the situation. You know what I mean? But that's it. That is the reason why I try to have these conversations. Okay. And this is being on Reddit. It makes it so crazy. I think that's where the overall problem lay, was that it felt like Asma was painting a broad brush across Palestine for the actions of a few crazies in other countries where the majority have no voice or say, only thinking about when they will be bombed, not who's gay, and we need to get them. Yeah. So that's my point, and that's why I do what I do. So if you don't understand the method, it's cool. It's fine. And you can usually say this about any other kind of like marginalized identity that I seek to protect or talk about. You could be like, you're cis. You're a cishet, and you don't understand trans issues like that. Why are you arguing with transphobes in the way that you want to argue that you think is the most successful method and not in the way that I want you to argue? And you can say that because I'm a cis guy. I'm not trans. So you're right. And I mean, you're wrong ultimately because I know what I'm fucking doing and you don't. but I get it. But you can't really say that about Islamophobia. It's the one thing you can't really say that about me on. That's the one thing. All right. So like I'm the one getting bomb swabbed at TSA, baby. You can't. So it's funny when white people try to overstep and do that shit, but it's fine. You do you. It's the same thing I say about any kind of group that I defend, that I talk about. It's not for you. If I'm talking about black issues with someone who's anti-black, that's not for black people, bro. That's not. It's for white people. There's a conversation for white people. Most of the conversations that I have when I am talking to an outside group is specifically targeted towards young white men. Okay? If you sometimes feel like I'm out of pocket in the way that I'm communicating certain things and it makes you feel a certain type of way, it makes you feel angry. Okay? Yeah, well, it's not for you. You already know where I stand. Trust me. Okay? Do you get what I mean? You're already black. You already know what being a black person in America looks like. You live it every fucking day. You already have a certain amount of lived experience. Okay? You might be able to brush up on certain talking points and effective counters or whatever in terms of messaging when you watch a debate that I might have with someone who's anti-black, but you already have that fucking lived experience. I'm talking to people who don't have that lived experience. I'm using my privilege specifically as an effective communicator that looks a certain way, that acts a certain way, that behaves a certain way to break through on a lot of people who would never listen to a black person because of their anti-black status from the start. The goal is to chip away at that because bigotry is quite resilient, especially when it's consistently being propped up by social conditioning. And that's it. Give it a break, Lamau. No, I'm not going to give it a break. This is like fundamentally something that I believe in, something that I care about, something that I think I'm quite successful at, as a matter of fact. And no, I'm not going to give this a break. How about you take a break for 3 minutes at the top of the hour? Okay, but don't get upset if I check you. I forget this isn't for me. I wish more people were progressive on blackness. It's just us defending ourselves. I mean, good luck. It's impossible. His entire society is designed in an incredibly anti-black fashion. It's just like, you know, my job, where I see myself, is someone who is a communicator of these sorts of issues to people who would not be responsive in any other circumstance. Like someone who's anti-trans is not, especially in a debate format, is not going to be fucking responsive to a trans person. That's the unfortunate reality, right? So my goal is to fucking penetrate that barrier as being a bro cishet white dude. Feel me? As opposed to like in the real world, the number one thing that you can do as a trans person to combat transphobia is just like be a normal, chill trans person existing in the real world and hanging out with your fucking coworkers. Like, I'm sure every single trans person in this chat who actually does that on a daily basis will tell you that that is the number one way of just like destroying transphobia. Oh, I just remembered. I didn't realize the reach Ta-Nehisi Coates had until a very liberal coworker who's pro-Israel messaged me to tell me he wishes more people could see what's actually happening and get rid of their bias because his new book changed his mind. Yes, dude. Ta-Nehisi is the fucking whisperer, dude. He is the liberal whisperer. That's why when I saw him pop off, I was like, oh my God, this is like genuinely a fucking, this is a genuine sea change that is coming. He is like, he is considered GOAT status among liberals. Like, this is like Lin-Manuel Miranda could not hold a candle to Ta-Nehisi Coates. That is Obama's favorite writer. Okay. Are you kidding me? Are you fucking kidding me? And not only that, but he is a real one for the record. I will stand on this. If you listen to him talk, that's a real one. He recognizes that there are definitely like certain things that he doesn't fully comprehend yet, but his heart is absolutely in the fucking right way. His mind is totally set on the issue. I listened to him talk to Ezra Klein about this, and there were a couple moments that I was looking for. Because like my expectation, if you're a Westerner, if you're an American, especially a prominent liberal like Ta-Nehisi is, there are a couple things that they can always get you on. And he fucking did not even concede. Wait, hold on. I actually wrote this to one of his friends that because I'm trying to get him on. Hold up. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I got to read it. Because when I was listening to it, I was like, damn, this was a great fucking point that he like did not even back away from. Shit, maybe I didn't actually bring it up. What did he say? I don't know. I don't remember. There was a couple points where he just like, he caught. Ezra is like a pretty open-minded guy. Oh, I forgot to run the ad break, by the way. Ezra is a pretty open-minded guy, and I kind of like him. Yeah. Oh, when Ezra said Hamas apologist, yes. Thank you. That is right-wing framing baked into the fucking conversation. All right, Israelis, Hamas apologists. And he caught that. Ta-Nehisi caught that shit and was like, I'm going to push back on this. Why did you say Hamas apologists, but you said far-right Israelis? And by the way, Ezra is my problematic fave. I don't really care. I don't know why I've like developed such a liking to him. I guess like it is what it is. Like listening to his podcasts have like, he annoys me at times, but I do still have this appreciation for him because I think he does a decent job of like presenting himself as a charitable guy who is willing to have his mind changed. Like he doesn't give me like annoying fucking grimy grifter. You're philo-Semitic? Okay, bro, chill. Who's Ezra? Ezra Miller? Ezra Klein. Ezra Klein at the New York Times. He's the creator of Vox, and then and now he has a podcast on New York Times. He's not a smarmy lib. More than can be said for most libs, to be honest. Yeah. Anyway, and I think that, be honest, there's no shot you actually think he cares that much about gay people in the Middle East as he claimed to yesterday. What? No. What are you talking about? What are you fucking stupid? No, of course not. What? No.
conversation between Hasanabi and Asmongold right now. I'm about an hour into it, and if you're unfamiliar with that conversation, basically Asmongold is coming under fire for saying that Palestinian culture is an inferior culture to that of Western culture because of its roots in Islam, making it more prone to homophobia, transphobia, and more extremist conservative views. And I find Hassan's response to that to be very interesting. I'm going to put this into my own terms, the meaning that I understand and take away from it. Namely, Hassan seems to be saying that there is no such thing as one culture which is inferior to another culture so much as it is one culture which is more or less mature than another culture. And maturity can be hampered or stunted by a lack of material circumstance, and or from the restriction or taking away of material circumstance, a culture might regress, which we might be experiencing here in the United States, unfortunately, at the moment. Now, that's not to say that as cultures mature that they all homogenize into one identical culture. Not at all. Much like individuals, each person develops and matures into their own self. And Hassan goes on to argue that all cultures should be supported insofar as making sure that their material needs are met, so that they have enough autonomy, so that the liberation movements that are necessary for them to mature can occur. But right now, especially in Palestine, they are constantly under attack. They are in survival mode, and when they are in survival mode, there cannot be the necessary steps towards liberation for marginalized people groups. So the first step is to get to a place of stability, get to a place of general liberation from an oppressive regime. And then
That's a good summary.
From there, we should start to hopefully see like cultural maturity. Now, another point that Hassan argues that I would be remiss not to mention is the fact that historically the idea of one culture being inferior to another culture, like inherently in such a way that it cannot necessarily change to become, more mature in those terms, but it's this more static thing of being inferior, that has historically been used as an excuse to commit atrocities against people groups, whether it's been indigenous people or black people. So we need to be very...
Because the debate was stupid, he only had one argument. It doesn't matter, because just listen to my words, man. Okay? For 45 to 47,000 people that were listening to Asmongold, this was the first fucking time where they literally heard someone from start to finish describe that there is no inferiority in cultures, that like these guys are too busy fucking surviving to actually turn around and be like, oh, let's do a gay pride parade. You know what I mean? Like all of this stuff is basically just repackaged historical materialism. All of this stuff is basically explaining American foreign policy and how devastating that has been for entire regions, showcasing like that these places, when they had a crumb of autonomy, were able to actually, have a more, I guess, Western focused, like liberally palatable fucking existence. That all went away when fundamentalists came in to the fold as like the number one emancipators and liberators away from the influence of the treacherous parasitic Western imperialist forces. Like all of this stuff is obviously important for these people to hear. Okay, it doesn't matter what Asmongold's argument is. Like even if a lot of people are going in there to be like, oh, Asmongold is cooking, he's going to destroy this guy. Like ultimately, there is still a shit ton of people that hear that for the first time ever when they haven't ever heard about that, and their framework will change.
Very careful in the language that we use when speaking about other cultures, especially cultures that have yet to mature and are under intense oppression. Now, Hassan's take on culture was something I had actually never heard before, and up till hearing it, I actually wasn't entirely sure how I felt about the whole cultural situation. I had heard somebody bring it up to me before, and I wasn't sure how to handle it. I like Hassan's take on this. I'm curious what other people think.
I feel like Hassan's take is basic sociology. There are probably a lot of YouTube vids on the topic that could help you explore further. Maybe trying to find a vid on Maslow's hierarchy. Wonder why they don't teach historical materialism in school. Sounds pretty cool. Yeah. It's not culture that causes homophobia or whatever. By this logic, I'm a dirty Indian because I'm from an immature culture, not due to material conditions of the subcontinent. Culture is completely separate from social conservatism and social liberalism. Culture is stuff like food, language, dress, literature, and their history. Exactly. No, absolutely. That's precisely what it is. That is what it is. There is no There is no like this culture is better than others or whatever the fuck. Culture is just the sum total products that the output that you create as you respond to your material conditions. To be a theory nerd and add on, the political sociologist Charles Tilly, whose most famous theories covered exactly this phenomenon, in that European society's linear timeline of cultural and capitalist progression cannot be applied to countries that have been colonized, specifically the global south, because they have not been afforded the same opportunity for linear progression. But even more, there's also the fact that the global south has been rejected from equity overall. There's also another side of this, which is why I like find at least like attempts towards socialization, higher degrees of socialization, to be truly unique in terms of development for even other countries that have like historically been undermined due to a number of different reasons, but specifically China. When you look at Chinese development, it's like insane to consider that they went from humiliation, ritualistic humiliation, and the grips of colonial violence to becoming a fucking superpower that is competitive in the global marketplace with the United States of America damn near overnight. When you look at even the USSR going from a rugged terrain full of potato farmers that were constantly in the grips of famine, and there was still plenty of famine in the USSR as well. Okay, before you blast me for that. Going from that to being another fucking superpower, that like beat the United States of America to the space race is crazy. Okay? I mean, that is, in my opinion, in my estimation, these are massive fucking leaps. These are massive projects that even at a time when like technological prowess had not caught up, simply the ideological resilience and an interest in doing something different caused so much of this collectivization to occur in such a short period of time without 400 years of chattel slavery and colonial exploit. And a lot of people cannot look at that on an even playing field because they are just simply ill-equipped to understand any of that from a materialist perspective. They just don't like there's no way to comprehend it. Like there's no way to look at the situation with a broader snapshot and try to, I mean, in Russia they had plenty of history of colonial exploit, as did China, just in the way that the West did. Yes, but their overall standing from their starting point of this project to its peak is insane. Like it's not like there was any sort of like genuine liberalization initiative or any sort of like, I mean, you had serfdoms. You did not have the bounties of empire to the same degree, in my opinion, that the Western world did, specifically with chattel slavery. Anyway, culture is not simply a response to material conditions, as there are a ton of other cultural forces such as kinship and adaptations to local ecosystems. What adaptations to local ecosystems would still be material? Like, anthropologists would see your view as reductionist and too deterministic. PhD here, by the way. You just said it's not materialistic and then described like materialism. PhD, by the way. But anyway, it's fine. It's fine. There is a spiritual sure. I'm willing to concede on this point. Okay, I'm not an anthropologist. I am far from the most knowledgeable person. I'm just a dumbass. Okay, you're right. What I understood, his original statement implied that because there are aspects worth criticizing in Palestinian culture, as with any, it allows him to have complete apathy when Israel bombs that society in extinction. I don't know if it was intentional, but it seemed like you passively guided the conversation to a place where you both agreed this notion is ridiculous, and I thought that was nice. Yes, thank you. That is what I was doing. Especially when I think like one of the major points of contention in that conversation, one of the high notes, was basically when I asked him if he would feel the same way about like, firebombing a white Alabama enclave that hosts some of the most far-right fucking radical Christians. And obviously he was like, no, I treat American citizens differently. And that was it. There's also the factor to consider that the presence of most bigotry stems directly from the cultural imports of the global north to the global south. Colonialization didn't just stunt cultural development, but also regressed it in some factors because colonies were punished for engaging in their indigenous culture, which in many cases was more progressive than their colonizers. Yeah. Trump dementia. Okay. Yeah, I think one of the most resilient points there is always when I talk about how religion can be a tool for good, it can be a tool for bad. Historically, it has been used for both the justification of chattel slavery and also been used in the abolition of chattel slavery. And ultimately, you don't have an issue with religion. You have an issue with fundamentalists. You have an issue with right wing conservatism. That's what it is. And I think that's a good thing to separate for a lot of people, because a lot of right wing conservatives in the United States of America hate other right wing conservatives that are brown for doing the same shit that they're advocating for here, but more responsive to what is permissible in American society. Obviously, the Westboro Baptist Church can't fucking run around, roam the streets with AR-15s and like throw gay people off the roofs, but they would if they were fucking living in an ISIS-dominated territory of Syria. Okay, they would 100% be doing that shit. Here, they just get their rocks off by fucking calling a gay person that died the F slur at the funeral and then going and eating jalapeno poppers at Applebee's. Like, that's how you also stunt radicalization to a certain degree, by offering people, you know, some material benefits. This does not mean that like American culture is more prosperous or better than others. It simply means that America is has the bounties of empire, and therefore our fucking right-wing nutters here are stunted to a certain degree in comparison to the right-wing nutters everywhere else. Why do you think he said he would be sad to see Germans bombed if he was a Jew in 1940s German concentration camp? It seems like, yeah, that was a ridiculous point. I don't think he fully, I think he was just trying to move past that point at that point. One simple argument I use when I get asked by my Western friends about the slow progress of LGBTQ in our culture from North Africa is that we are too poor, too unstable, too uncertain about putting food on the table to discuss such things. People have to realize that something as basic as food is somewhat scarce in countries where MENA, let alone proper education. Yeah. And it's kind of funny because like, it's not like Americans are fucking super woke. You got the body of a mechanic now. What, a mechanic of what? A sex mechanic? MHUD made a good show. MHUD made a good short video. MHUD made a good short video showcasing American HUD. I'll watch the next link in a second. Okay. Oh, that's my favorite video. Come on, dude. That's my favorite fucking video. But before we get to my favorite fucking video of all time, we're going to finish this one because this is an absolute jam. Okay. A jammer. Yeah. Okay. Welcome. Yeah.
So welcome to my house.
Hell yeah, baby. This is who I am. Gen X 1970, baby. I got lead poisoning in my blood. Okay. I'm sure some of you have probably seen this. This is one of the best videos of all time to showcase what American culture is all about. But I think this is where America thrives. Pyramids or the Colosseum, and then some people do this. Yes, this is significantly better. It's a fake video. Shut up. This ain't the full vid. No, it's not. It's also not real, but it doesn't matter. That's the Rizzler and Big Justice in 10 years. MHUD hates Rizzler and Big Justice. Like, he will never let an opportunity slide when he can fucking slander the goats. Okay? I hope he is wrong. I hope to God he is wrong. Anyway, I hope that people understand. I hope that people understand where I was coming from, what I was doing. I think it was ultimately successful. Also, the only band that hit the Twitch towers wasn't necessarily Asmongold, who apparently got a 14-dayer for the statements that he made. But DJ Academics has been banned on Twitch after streaming with Aiden Ross, who is currently banned on the platform. Why aren't Gosling doing pride parades in the streets? The streets, yeah. I mean, yeah, classic. Sam's Club pays me well. Yeah, MHUD is in the pocket of fucking Big Sam's Club. Okay, that's what it is. That's why he hates the Costco guys. Damn, not friend of the show, Ock. Yeah. Loner Box tried to disprove your material condition by pulling up a map of the LGBT equality index and a map of GDP per capita, which line up almost perfectly, but then pointed to the GDP of Gulf states and Russia to say material conditions are good there and is still homophobic. What is this argument, dude? Like, why is Loner Box trying to be like defend Asmongold? What a fucking take. Like, I thought this guy was like somewhat normal. What has happened? What has happened? Yes, brother, you're right. There is spiritually something wrong with Muslim countries and Russia. Okay, Also, material conditions in Russia being good is funny, but you know. Israel could target a wide array of targets in Iran, including missile and drone storage sites, military bases, key government buildings, and nuclear research laboratories. 2 Israeli officials briefed on the plans, tell the New York Times. Nice. Why I mentioned Loner Box? I don't fucking know. I don't know how. No, bro, his brain broke over his hate for you. I didn't even know he hated me. Like, I've talked to him before. I think he's just more so like a destiny orbiter. And the more you orbit, the more insane your takes get. And you just, I don't know. You just like kind of lose sight of any sort of honesty. He just ruined his day saying that, man. It's not even a crash out type of situation. Like it's just weird. Something the boys bring up in Blowback season 4 is that Islamic fundamentalism is as American as apple pie. It is true. We support it and help spread this right-wing reactionary ideology in the region. Yeah. But isn't it funny? Isn't it funny how we spread the fucking like even the homophobia shit is like a literal holdout from Western colonial exploits in the region. Like half of those laws regarding gay people straight up come from like all of these countries being at a certain point a Western colony, right? Like historically speaking, it's not a thing that people cared about or thought about at all. There's hella gay shit in Islamic culture in general. It's funny because now, obviously, there is a lot of fundamentalism in the world, in the Islamic world for sure. So they look back at that and they're like, no, they weren't doing gay shit, I promise. And it's like, no, there was a shit ton of, you know, man love. But it doesn't really matter. If you're going to look at like the current order of business, it's like even when you look at Saudi Arabia, right? Like, what are they fucking supposed to do? What can they do? They can't even fucking rise up against the goddamn kingdom. They can't do that. They got great American weapons to squash any sort of protest, to destroy any sort of fucking conversation. Anyway, same with many places in Africa, but then they just had the T-show Savages, nice moral Christian values. Oh yeah, one of the greatest examples of this, I think, is like when people were talking about, was it Uganda? I think it was Uganda, right? Where they were talking about the Ugandan president passing one of the world's like harshest anti-LGBTQ laws in the world, right? And everyone was like, look at these fucking savages. Look at these goddamn savages in fucking Uganda and look at how fucking homophobic they are. Okay? And then you find out that like in many parts of Africa, a lot of the anti-homosexuality laws literally come from evangelicals, dude. Evangelical missionaries, American and Western evangelical missionaries went to Uganda and just made people fucking insanely right-wing, insanely fundamentalist. And now those very same evangelicals here in the United States of America are like, look at these fucking savages. It's like, are you kidding me, bro? That's crazy. Like, that's crazy. Here it is. How U.S. evangelicals helped homophobia flourish in Africa. Anti-gay sentiment had previously existed in the continent, but white American religious groups have given it a boost. Uganda's parliament is set to debate a new anti-gay bill next week as the country's president called for a medical opinion on the deviancy of homosexuals. The bill, besides criminalizing homosexuality, also criminalizes the promotion and abetting of homosexuality, follows a January parliamentary investigation into alleged promotion of homosexuality in schools. They are literally doing American CRT shit, by the way. But it's like, oh man, well, you know, they're inferior. It's like, no, dude, no. Once again, not to get all fucking yellow parenti on you, but a couple things you need to understand. Africa is not poor. You don't rob a poor house. You rob a rich house, okay? Africa as a continent is not a poor continent. It is a continent that is robbed, okay? You do not rob a poor house. You rob a rich house. It has been kept in a certain condition through historical colonialism. It has been kept underdeveloped deliberately. It is overexploited, not underdeveloped. That's the argument that he makes. But it's true. And I think like not all, for the record, just so people understand, this doesn't mean that like all matter of homophobia comes from the Western world. It is all a Western exploit. I mean, or it is all a Western export. It's not, okay? There is obviously going to be resilient. There is obviously going to be, you know, bigotry in every society, okay? It's a matter of outside groups that have a shit ton of power moving the needle in a certain direction. Okay, like pushing and pulling, putting their finger on the scale a little bit. And when it comes down to it, like I think it was Lesbian Boulevard that asked, "What about China? China still has a lot of LGBTQ repression." I think China has become gay as fuck over the course of the past decade, especially, and openly so. There is still, there's still more to do there, but it's the same principle always. It's the same exact principle. It's gay as fuck, but not gay enough. G wants China to be the gayest nation. Yeah, I do like that the standard, the standard that we have for how good a country is how they treat gay people. By the way, that's like such a funny fucking approach to this situation. Like the better you treat gay people, the better you are as a country. Okay, like what a funny standard. Here in America, gay people can get married now since 2013, even though you don't have health care. It's sick. Anyway, China is giga gay. My wife's friends with someone who's married an American dude, and they went back to visit Shanghai recently. Yeah, I mean it's Chinese like China being gay is neither here nor there. It's 2015. Obergefell is 2015. Oh, gay marriage is 2015. I was wrong. My bad. It's funny because I was there for like one of the first things I ever did was watch my uncle officiate a lesbian wedding in Los Angeles when I stepped foot in LA. And that was all the way back in 2013. Mod's title is wrong. It's IDF, not IOF. No, it's IOF, Israeli Occupying Force, not Israeli Defense Force. They're not doing any defense. They're occupying. But is your uncle an imam? Yeah, he is. All right. I think we've covered the Asmongold conversation back and forth quite extensively. You know, there's not much more to say about that. Anyway, Japan isn't great regarding LGBTQ or women's issues either, but I doubt we'll hear Asma say he didn't give a fuck about Hiroshima and Nagasaki. He doesn't know how ingrained his hate for Arabs really is. Yeah. My uncle is not an imam, chat. Calm down. You misunderstood my joke earlier. I hope we can recover. Yeah, I know. Okay. I get it. You were joking. I got it. Yeah. Yes, this is okay. This is the last thing I'm going to say. You're right about this. A common point I hear against LGBTQ plus cause in the Middle East is colonialism is bad, correct? This is America's pro-gay arguable law. Then gay stuff is a Western export, wrong. Local reactionaries use the cause. Yes, this is what Russia uses as well, where they literally will be like, America is gay as fuck. And they're right-wing reactionaries. Like Vladimir Putin is right-wing. Okay? The fucking mullahs or the Ayatollah is right-wing. He is. He is a Islamist fundamentalist. Okay? Duh. No shit. I hope that people understand that. Now, the thing is, as a right-wing guy, yes, he will look at Western perversion and will point to, in a way that is not dissimilar to our own hogs here in the United States of America, they will say the Western world is morally degenerate. They want to make our children gay. And they will use that as an anti-imperialist sentiment to beef up their arguments. They are homophobic personally. Right wing except trans, yes. Iran is radically homophobic, but also radically pro-trans. Many of these other countries in the Orient are like that. It's kind of confusing. A lot of Islamist fundamentalism come from the U.S., though. Yes, I'm not going to get into this again. Okay, yes, it is. That was baked into the heart of the America 9/11 subject. Okay. Yeah, maybe a little bit too pro-trans to a degree. Anyway. All right. Joe Biden, let's get started. Let's get started. You never drop. Okay. The pro-trans thing in Iran. Iranian law allows for the legal recognition of trans individuals' gender identity. However, such recognition is only granted to individuals officially diagnosed with GID and upon their successful completion of a long process of legal and medical gender transition. Okay? Yes, this is true. Homosexuality is punished. In some instances, could even be punishable by death or forcible transition. Having said that, yeah, if you're found to be gay, it's a wild situation. Iran, the Ayatollahs are like Kamala Harris. They're doing transgender bottom surgeries on illegal migrants. Okay? That's what they're doing. They're doing forcible transgender bottom surgeries, much like Kamala Harris, for free. They're forcing them to play up Fallout New Vegas. Okay, we're done. We're done. We're done. All right, let's continue. So, oh yeah, the Vice did a whole doc on it back in the day. Synthetic drugs, transsexuals of Iran. Honestly, that is a good way to point out that people in America really cannot comprehend what is going on in the Middle East. Yeah, that's why it's funny. You can tell when someone doesn't know what the fuck they're talking about when they say like, what about the gender apartheid in Lebanon? Like that one chatter, the gender apartheid in Lebanon and Syria. It's like, dude, what the fuck are you saying? Like, that is crazy. What do you mean the gender apartheid or like anti-gay initiatives in Lebanon? You just saw that they're Arab and Arab adjacent, and you went, there is Sharia law there. Okay, that is crazy. Those are some of the most secular countries. Like with Syria, you can definitely talk about the civil war. You can talk about, Assad. That's one thing. But if you were to say that, like, these are especially Lebanon, like Lebanon being like anti-gay is so funny. It is the gayest. It is a objectively gayer country in the MENA region than Turkey. Okay, you were just simply going, oh, they're fucking Arabs. They're Muslim, I think. I don't really fully understand it, but who cares? Austin is proof. Okay. All right, let's get to it. Ladies and gentlemen, Game of Throws for the Brandon regime once again. Okay? Game of Throws for the Brandon regime once again. My man said, I got a red line, Jack. You can't keep starving Gaza. You can't keep starving northern Gaza. And I'm giving you an entire month.
So our monitors now take us back to the State Department, where Matthew Miller is taking questions on U.S. support for Israel. Let's listen in.
So,
There's so
Matt?
much going on.
and I expect
And
your
you have
questions will fully cover
and you
everything.
have
Give me
nothing-
the chance to expound on all of those things.
All right. Well, let's start with this warning to the Israelis about approving humanitarian aid deliveries to Gaza. What can you tell us about this?
A few things. So first, the Secretary did write, along with Secretary of Defense Austin, to the Defense Minister of Israel, Yoav Gallant, and the Minister for Strategic Affairs, Ron Dermer, on Sunday to make clear our concerns about the levels of humanitarian assistance that have been making it into Gaza. This was a letter we consider to be a private diplomatic communication that we did not intend to make public from our side, but now that it is public, I am happy to confirm it and speak to it to some extent. I think you have to put this letter in the context of our ongoing and long-lasting communications and concerns about the levels of humanitarian assistance that have made it to Palestinian civilians. If you go back to April, the Secretary wrote at the time to Minister Gallant to make clear that we had seen the levels of humanitarian assistance plateau, and then after they plateaued, start to decline, and made clear that at the time that the levels were unacceptable.
I'm sorry. There is literally, first of all, number one, 30 days for you to like actually give food back to the Gazan population that you are eviscerating is insane to begin with. It comes with the open recognition that you are starving the Gazan population in North Gaza. It comes a day after there were gruesome images plastered all over social media and even mainstream media to a certain degree of Gazans in tents outside of a fucking hospital being burned alive, where you can clearly see the IV drip, like as they are begging, as they are, burning alive with the fucking IV attached to their arms. It is insane to me. It is so utterly depraved. And not only is it utterly depraved and so unimaginably immoral, okay? Not only is it completely depraved, completely immoral, what is insanely stupid about this is that he gave a fucking 30-day enforcement. As in, it's so stupid for two reasons. One, 30 days for food to come back into Gaza, North Gaza, they're gonna die. The fuck do you mean? Oh, you can starve them for 30 days? Great stuff, Biden. Thank you. Also, what is the significance of 30 days? Oh, that's right. It's post-election. Are you fucking stupid? Are you throwing on purpose? Like, even if you are the biggest amoral, bloodless, sociopathic scumbag who gets off on the death and destruction that Israel is doing at your behest. Like, even if you are the child mutilator, okay, you love it when they're doing it, you still should at the very least be a little concerned about your party's standing come November. What the fuck is going on? I don't understand it. I genuinely cannot, like, this has to be insult to injury, right? Like, it does not make any sense from any comprehensible metric, okay? It obviously doesn't make sense from the morality of the situation. If it comes with the recognition that your ally is starving an entire fucking civilian population in North Gaza deliberately, right? That's already a direct violation of human rights, okay? You are a war criminal overseeing war crimes happening with the weapons that you are sending, okay? But we already know that he is an immoral scumbag, okay? We already know that the Democratic Party is overseeing and managing this genocide. What is shocking to me is that on top of the overseeing of this managed genocide, that they are trying to slap on a liberal, optics-focused veneer, is that they are simultaneously throwing for the election. I was talking to a liberal friend of mine who is working with some super PACs at this moment, okay, for doing turnout and trying to do door knocking operations. And one of the conversations that I was having with him, because he is not as worried about the polls, because he keeps repeating, no, not Austin, just stop trying to fucking figure out. These are my normie friends, okay? You will never know who they are. I will never fucking show them on camera. Shut the fuck up. Listen, I was talking to a normie friend of mine who is currently working with super PACs, okay? And the conversation that we were having, this back and forth that we were having over it, he basically said stuff like, oh, well, these are like Obama era consultants. Like, they know what's going on. I'm not too worried. They actually have a lot of money. They're very excited. You know, they're excited about the war chest. Like, I think their internal polling must be good. Otherwise, they're not, like, it doesn't seem like they're too worried. And I was like, dog, they are fucking worried. Okay. They are definitely worried, and they should be worried. Stop assuming that they're fucking brilliant and doing everything for a good reason, okay? Stop assuming that they are doing something for a good reason. They are not, okay? Having said that, okay, one conversation that we had, because he was like, I finally was able to like wear him out and explain to him the situation, and I was like, listen, dog, like, this shit is not great. He was like, so what do you think could change the tide before November? And I told him, one thing. There's only one thing that could truly change the dynamic of this election and swing polling in the opposite direction in the minds of a lot of undecideds. And that is if any step, because they can't turn around from their anti-immigrant sentiment. They're already too fucking invested in that. They've already locked themselves into this. The only thing that can maybe change the outcome of this election, if an arms embargo comes and Israel is brought to heel and is made to concede and forcibly pushed into a ceasefire. If that call comes in, if Brandon makes the boss call and actually changes the dynamic of this, there are still going to be plenty of people who are like, fuck you, you killed half my family, I'm never going to vote for you. But a lot of people would look to that, and the media coverage that you would get from that would potentially swing this election in your favor. That's the one thing. That is the one thing that they could do. And lo and behold, what did Brandon do? The next day, he's like, 30 days. Arms embargo is coming in 30 days. You can starve them for 30 days. I had a lot of faith in Biden to do the right thing. Once Kamala took over, the pressure was off him. I'm here to admit I was wrong. You were right. And now I think Biden is truly bitter and actually dislikes Kamala's surge. I'm full doom on Biden, and he wants to hurt Kamala. There is no real reason for Biden to come out and put a fucking arms embargo or a red line on the fucking table with a 30-day timeline that moves the needle past the election. There is literally no reason unless you are trying to throw. Okay? The election is before 30 days, chat. It is before 30 days. Him saying you have 30 days to starve out the northern Gazan population beyond the immorality of the situation makes no decipherable, discernible sense from an bloodless electoral calculus, okay? You are deliberately throwing. It would have been better if he said nothing. Do you understand? If he had said nothing and kept saying, we're working tirelessly around the clock, it would just be the same old bullshit. Saying that you have a red line that will be enforced after the election is done is literally the most insane thing I have ever heard. That is wild. He's hoping the empty promise swings the polls, but we aren't stupid. No, I think he is throwing. I'm not even saying, I'm not even going to go. I'm telling you right now, he is throwing. I think he hates Kamala Harris. I think he hates the Democrats for taking away his toy. And he's like, I'm going to fuck up the bag. I love Israel. Am Israel hijack. I don't give a shit. It's insane. It is incomprehensible. I think they're saying that the aid should start going in now and report of it will be in 30 days. Yes, dog. That is an enforcement and a red line that comes after the election. If you could say 30 days, you could say tomorrow. You understand that? Do you understand that? You could say tomorrow. I'm enforcing this. You could have said that yesterday. I have a friend working at the DNC, and from what I've heard, your assessment is correct. There's bad blood in the White House. This is truly a spiteful, hateful thing that you do, okay? Like, because it obviously is insane. Like, it is not only immoral, but it also directly puts you at odds with it directly puts you at odds in terms of like openly putting it out there that you recognize that Israel is violating human rights. Okay? You are openly recognizing that Israel is violating human rights and saying you got 30 days to stop violating human rights. So that in and of itself is psychotic. Okay? That is psychotic, but we expect that from Biden. He fucking loves baby murder. He is number one at baby murder. He loves it. Okay? 100%. 100%. The fact that he said I will do an arms embargo after the election is only spiteful. It's only spiteful. That's it. It has to be. There is no discernible reason for him not to say you have 5 days. You have 2 days. You have 1 day until you fix the situation. We recognize that this is a violation of human rights. That acknowledgement alone is a direct activation of the Leahy Law. Okay? That's it. America is supposed to, we know that America is a consistent violator of international law. We know that already, right? But this stuff is in the books, and there's a reason why they play this song and dance where they're like, oh, well, we don't recognize that Israel's violating human rights law, even though our own internal fucking data shows that they are. Like, oops, USAID gave me an internal memo and I just kind of ripped it apart and lied to Congress. I'm Anthony Blinken. They do that kind of song and dance because there is obviously supposed to be some kind of like something that keeps liberals together, something that makes liberals believe that there is like rules around this sort of thing, right? You can't go too far ahead. You have to play the song and dance. Okay? So it's worse than I heard. Kamala camp and Biden camp are bitter for many reasons. Kamala doesn't take advice from the Biden advisors. Remember, don't say weird. That was them. Fired several. Biden is bitter. He got kicked out. And Harrison is a Biden guy. So the DNC also dislikes Kamala. Remember, DNC failed with Gaza Speaker Harrison. So he's probably fired if she wins. Yeah, I think that there is obviously internal division here. Both parties don't necessarily care about like the humanitarian needs of Gazans. They don't really think that, Palestinians are human beings worthy of dignity and freedom. Like that part is obvious because if they did, they would be fucking screaming. At least one party would be like, what the fuck is going on here? This is completely unacceptable. But they are losers all the way down. Okay. It's all theater. They never even cared about optics. Yes, it is all theater. And that's why you do care about the optics. Okay. Democrats might come out of an immediate embargo now because this fucks them completely. If they want to win, they should do it like they should have before. Yes, For months and months, I have said this. And if this happened one day, you would obviously, immediately, you would see every single fucking commentator on CNN and MSNBC speaking like they literally have been locked in and tuned into the Hasanabi broadcast for the past fucking 12 months. Okay? Oh, we knew it. Oh, how gracious, how beautiful, how bold. It came too late, but it still happened, blah, blah, blah. The fact that she's kowtowing even further than Biden instead of pulling to the left and winning with the promise of an arms embargo is insane to me. So we'll see. We'll see. The only way that Kamala gets out of this fucking polling hole that she's currently found herself in is if she, for, you know, somehow with some stroke of luck, with a Hail Mary campaign, gets the branding camp to like actually force Israel to do a ceasefire. That's it. That's it. Why is Biden talking about 30 days when he won't be president either way? Why didn't they make Kamala promise? No, he'd be lame duck. He is still the president. He's still the president until January 20th. So why is this bad for Kamala? I missed that part. What do you mean, why is this bad for Kamala? There is one thing that could potentially... Okay, let's dial this back for a second, okay? Boom. I have the DC wonk hat on, okay? Forget everything. I am now a bloodless sociopathic monster who only cares about woke liberalism. You know, I love the Democratic Party, okay? Imagine me as someone totally different. I'm Jamie Harrison, okay? Now listen, as Jamie Harrison, I'm looking at the fucking polls, okay? I'm a Jamie Harrison type. I'm looking at the polls. I'm seeing that over the past month, undecideds have started swinging in Trump's direction. And what has happened in that past month? Donald Trump has done the fucking media campaign. He's been going after all of these other avenues where he could possibly pick up a lot of low propensity, mid propensity voters in the podcast circuit, yada, yada, yada. But all of a sudden, the momentum from the Kamala camp has completely been cut short. And now the momentum is swinging in Trump's direction. Okay? Momentum is now swinging in Trump's direction. I look at the avenues of communication. What do I have in front of me? I can't say anything about immigration because I'm locked the fuck in. I've spent tens of millions of dollars talking about how I am going to be the one that annihilates the migrants with my border wall, and Trump is silly and goofy and hypocritical, yada, yada, yada. So I can't make a massive communications change on that front. Okay? I've already destroyed that. I can't do that. I'm seeing Black and Hispanic men under a certain age slipping dramatically to the Trump camp. I'm looking at Donald Trump beating my campaign on low and mid propensity voters by 9 points. I'm, on the other hand, beating Donald Trump with high propensity voters by 4 to 5 points. That's not great. There are far more mid to low propensity voters out there by numbers, and the percentages are higher. So it's not a good situation for me at all. All signs point to alarm bells ringing, okay? The campaign is on fire. We have a massive war chest. We have pumped tens of millions of dollars specifically into Pennsylvania, Michigan, Wisconsin, and many of these other important states. And yet the needle hasn't moved in my direction. It's moved in the opposite direction. That means the message that I'm putting out there is not working. Okay? It's not. It's not working. Now, there's one thing that I have in my power that I could do. There is one weapon that I can wield here. Because like the abortion stuff, it's working, but it's clearly not enough to swing the polls, right? There's one thing I do have though. Americans broadly want this Israel thing to be wrapped up. That's it. It could be for a multitude of different reasons, but the overwhelming majority of Americans want a ceasefire. That's it. The majority of Republicans want a ceasefire. Okay? That is a massively consequential and massively popular thing that I could do. And if I do it now, there isn't enough time or money that these big moneyed interests can fucking attack me on. Right? Because right now, if she did that, how much money could AIPAC spend against fucking Kamala Harris on the general election? How important could that be for Americans when obviously Americans don't give a fuck and they actually like a ceasefire in Israel? Right? There is not enough time and not enough money to counter this objectively popular thing that she could do. So the only weapon that they have in their hands to change this trajectory is not even a communication, a difference in communicating, like the humanity of the Palestinians or the humanity of the Lebanese people. Like, that is too far gone. It's done. You've lost. You have to make actionable change and immediately do a full-throated media campaign to be like, we did that shit. You wanted it. We did that shit. We are the ones who did that. Okay? That's it. That's it. Surely AIPAC money wouldn't matter. Yes, it doesn't matter. You want to know why it doesn't matter? Because this is a fucking general election. It's an objectively popular policy that like tens of millions, if not hundreds of millions of Americans are on board with. And last but not least, there isn't enough time for AIPAC to cut anti-Kamala ads, especially when Kamala could counter that with positive messaging surrounding this issue, okay? It's not necessarily about separating herself from Biden. It's far too late for that. It's about forcing Biden's hand to push for a ceasefire, and it seems like Biden is not interested in doing that. Okay? Common sense gun control, popular. Common sense no genociding, popular. Yeah, except common sense no genociding is more popular than common sense gun control right now. It is the 5th priority amongst Americans. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. The 5th one is Israel-Palestine, according to the NBC poll we looked at. Kamala Harris is losing to Trump by fucking 15 to 18 points on that issue. They think Americans, for some reason, possibly because Trump is not currently in charge overseeing this genocide, think that Trump would be better on Israel. And that's not because they think that Donald Trump is this fucking, they think that Donald Trump is saying that he's going to continue the genocide, and that's why. Because that is inconsistent when you look at the actual fucking polling numbers on the issue of the ceasefire, where majority Republicans want a ceasefire as well. Genuine question. Can you explain why Republicans want a ceasefire? A little confused on that. What do you mean? Because Americans fancy themselves to be anti-war, okay? No matter how fucking aggro they are, they still personally think that war is bad. They think the top of the hour ad break is bad. They want to fucking defend against that. They think that, they just don't like it. They don't like war. They don't like watching ads. They like subscribing, okay? Here's the 3-minute ad break now, by the way. You can subscribe for free or get a gifted sub if you're lucky. Here's the 3-minute ad break now. Hey, Topped Off 520. Thank you for the prime. Brenide Burger. Thank you for the 20 community gifted subs. And Comrade Che, thank you for the 5 gifted subs. The embargo letter leaked. Yeah, we're going to read the embargo letter in a second. Donald Trump leads Kamala Harris on handling Israel-Ukraine wars. Wall Street Journal poll shows. Anyway, let's continue with this.
And that we needed to see Israel implement changes. They did make changes. The changes that they made caused humanitarian assistance to increase. We got up to somewhere between 300 to 400 trucks going in on some days to Gaza. But the thing that the secretary also made clear at the time is that the increase couldn't be a one-off, that it needed to be sustained. And what we have seen over the past few months is that the level of humanitarian assistance has not been sustained. In fact, it has fallen by over 50% from where it was at its peak. So the secretary, along with Secretary Austin, thought it was appropriate to make clear to the government of Israel that there are changes that they need to make again to see that the level of assistance making it into Gaza comes back up from the very, very low levels that it is at today.
And the consequence, if they don't do that, is what?
So I'm not going to speak to that today. Obviously, we made clear when we released our report that was mandated under National Security Memorandum 20 that there are provisions under U.S. law that require us to make certain certifications, and to make those certifications, we have to see that Israel is not arbitrarily denying humanitarian assistance, making it into Gaza. When the secretary made his conclusions under that report in April, he did so based on the changes that we had seen them put into place and the increased levels of humanitarian assistance. But of course, those levels of humanitarian assistance have to be sustained.
But what's the consequence?
There are implications under U.S. law, under policy, that I'm not going to speak to here, largely because we hope that Israel makes the changes that the secretary outlined in the letter. We have seen Israel make changes before, and when they make changes, humanitarian assistance can increase. And we have seen Israel just in the past few months work with humanitarian organizations to implement a polio vaccination campaign inside Gaza. So we know that it's possible to get humanitarian assistance into Gaza. We know it can be done. We know that the various logistical and bureaucratic obstacles can be surmounted. And so it is incumbent upon the government of Israel to surmount those challenges and get assistance in.
I mean, you say that there are implications to it. And obviously, under U.S. law, that's assistance. Is there specific assistance that come under scrutiny of it?
So I don't want to deal with any hypotheticals. You are right that it's just a plain reading of U.S. law. If you look at the provisions of U.S. law, that we are required to conduct assessments and find that recipients.
Damn, where was that earlier, bro? What the fuck? That's crazy. That's crazy. Turns out there is a fucking law, huh? There is no way to read this to make sure. Of course, Israel. Think carefully about the vibes you are bringing to the function. Immoral. He also seemingly. I'm saying there is no way to read this other than Biden being spiteful and throwing the election. We know he's an immoral genocidaire. He also seemingly hates Kamala enough to make sure she loses. If this timeline was overnight, they could force Israel to commit to a ceasefire. I need that hat in my life, and you never told me where you got it. I didn't get it. My brother did, and he got it from Vietnam. He was in Vietnam, including the Coochie Tunnel hat that I was wearing earlier. But that one. Is it true that Viets are the biggest Trump supporter group out of all Asian groups? It wouldn't shock me. Call me doomer pilled, but this is about to get somehow worse and more in our face. They just gave Bibi a shot clock on genocide, especially with the high potential of a lame duck admin as a whole. Kamala losing. Bibi now has 30 days to get the job done. Yeah. That sounds like you support Harris like a lib. Yeah, I don't care how it sounds. It's true. The analysis is correct. Okay? Coochie Tunnel. Is it possible that Biden wants to boost Kamala's numbers with a gesture towards a ceasefire while removing any pressure to follow through while setting the deadline after the election? No. There is no reason for Biden to do this. This makes Kamala look bad. I'm still riding with Biden. I'm still going to write his name in, of course. We did this 6 months ago. U.S. official says Israel sent assurance it is using arms lawfully days before the deadline. This is my Turkish goat who made up Pamuk, friend of the show, pushing the state spokesperson on the humanitarian aid to Gaza. Why are you waiting another 30 days to implement the law, she says. Miller says, we believe it is appropriate to give them a chance to cure the problem. It has been over a year now. Officials from this department have addressed that Israel is persistently and arbitrarily impeding aid into Gaza. If it's already doing it, why is the U.S. waiting? There are people inside this building who reached the opposite conclusion, he says. Good shit. Have you ever heard that when companies are about to fail, they assign a woman CEO and then say, see, she messed up? Yeah, like Twitter. I always thought that was just for corporations. I didn't know they could do this for an election. Yeah, they're doing it to the Democratic Party. That's such a funny, that is a funny take. I agree with that. They literally are just like, yeah, see, the woman fucked it up. It's the same shit, dude. What was it? Linda Yaccarino or whatever, becoming the CEO of Twitter to fucking throw the goddamn, to throw the goddamn platform in a fucking wastebasket. Yeah, that's great.
Recipients of U.S. military assistance do not arbitrarily deny or impede the provisioning of U.S. humanitarian assistance. That's just the law, and we, of course, will follow the law. But our hope is that Israel will make the changes that we have outlined and that we have recommended, and that the result of those changes will be a dramatic...
Why would they do that? Why would they do that? Of course they're not going to do that. They've never done that. For 12 months, you haven't done that.
Dramatic increase in humanitarian assistance. Ultimately, we are focused on the bottom line here. It's just it. Humanitarian assistance had been low. The changes that we had recommended had gotten it up, and those levels have not been sustained. And so we need to see further changes by the government of Israel.
I mean, obviously the timing of this, I know you don't explicitly do politics, but there's an election coming up here. To what extent is that a factor? I mean, 30 days from now would be after the U.S. election. It's been a year since the conflict has been ongoing. The president has repeatedly warned Israel about assistance, about civilian casualties, with at best mixed results sometimes. This happened in just 30 days before the election. I mean, to what extent was the election a factor?
This is not a factor at all. The bottom line is we felt it was appropriate if we are making clear to the government of Israel that there are these changes that need to be implemented, that we give them an appropriate period of time to implement them. We didn't think it was appropriate to send a letter and just say this has to happen overnight. We give them make clear there's a short window in which we want to see changes because the humanitarian situation is so dire on the ground, but it is appropriate to give them some time to work through the different issues and find ways to get the level of trucks, get the level of food, water, medicine back up to acceptable levels. Yeah, America.
Hi, Matt. So the 620I Foreign Assistance Act actually doesn't have the word arbitrarily. You say it's the law, but the NSM 20, which is a memorandum, has the word arbitrarily. So the Foreign Assistance Act says, when it's made known to the president that the government of such country prohibits or otherwise restricts directly or indirectly the transport of delivery of United States humanitarian assistance, it does not have arbitrarily. So given you are already saying humanitarian assistance is very low and putting in front of Israel a bunch of concrete measures on how to improve it, why are you waiting for another 30 days to implement the law?
Because we believe it's appropriate to give them a chance to cure the problem. And international humanitarian law does make exceptions for certain, I'll give you an example. Dual-use items is a good example. If there are dual-use items that legitimately could be used as a military purpose, of course governments aren't required to let those dual-use items in, which is not to say that they can use that exception as a blanket restriction on anything that can be used as a dual-use item. For example, if there are military movements happening in a certain period of time, governments can restrict the provision of humanitarian aid during that period, because obviously you wouldn't want to put humanitarian workers at jeopardy. So it is not accurate to say that there can be no restrictions. It's that those restrictions ultimately can't block civilians from getting the humanitarian access that they need. And that is what we're focused on doing. And so we think it's appropriate. Ultimately, what we want to see here is results. This isn't about making a return.
Bro, you don't understand. There is dual use for the fucking flour, okay? Dual use goods, baby. Scissors. Dual use. Could be used for terrorism. Could also be used to cut medical gauze, but guess what? There's dual use for medical gauze too. I feel like this community's gotten so doomer pilled. It's hard to watch y'all at this point. Man, something about like directly looking at a ongoing genocide for 12 fucking months on end with seemingly no improvements to the living conditions of the Palestinian people as it gets worse and worse every fucking day kind of has a doomer slant to it, don't you think? Like, my bad, bro. My bad if we're fucking up the vibes for you. Brad Summer. What do you mean, dude? The fuck? It's not only just like doomer pilled or whatever, okay? I try to do my very best in the midst of the ongoing coverage of the fucking genocide that we are funding and facilitating. I try to do my very best to just have like a cheery approach to see the fucking silver lining. But beyond that, like, I give liberals what they want. I give liberals the electoral calculus as well to all of this. If that makes you feel bad, if that makes you feel shitty, I don't know what to tell you, you know? Smile and dial, dude. You guys are doomer pilled is pretty funny. Oh, vibe check. It's no longer Brad Summer. Do you actually think libs will implement an arms embargo? Fuck no, dude. What? No, they should have done it a million times over, okay? Here's a good take, by the way, from the Trillbillies. Terrace Ray says, when I say the Palestinian issue is preeminent for me, I don't mean that it comes before every other issue. I mean that it is the primary contradiction around which everything else unravels. This is it, guys. This is what slavery was in the 19th century. It's the check coming due. Absolutely correct take. No, I'm not going to do his accent. Shut the fuck up. But it's correct. It is the most like obvious, glaringly obvious inconsistency that you can imagine. It goes against every single fucking moment that America has stood tall and proud atop the fucking mountain of empire and said, we are the preeminent defenders of the rule-based international order. Okay? It just showcases in full display that we are a bloodthirsty, genocidal empire that has no issues eviscerating children. No issues eviscerating teenagers inside of a tent in a fucking hospital, lighting them on fire. That's it. It is a wake-up call, in my opinion, for a lot of people in the Western world, too. Like, they see it. They see how America's response to this is to try to pummel anyone and everyone that says, hey, this is fucked up. It's so clear. The inconsistencies are so obvious. The inhumanity is so obvious. It is the issue. It is the issue. And in a way, it's like when people go, well, what about this? Or what about that? What about Sudan, right? Like, those are obviously massive humanitarian crises as well. that countries that we back are funding and facilitating, like the UAE. But beyond that, this is a direct through line of America, what America says versus what America does. Okay? That's it. No, it's not whataboutism, Andy's. Like, that is a massive humanitarian catastrophe also unfolding right there. They're directly in the hands of our allies, realizing some of the bounty that we have afforded them in terms of security contracts. The issue here, however, is that is still like at least 2 ticks removed from direct American intervention, whereas America and Israel are like this. Okay, America and Israel are like this. It's very obvious. It's like when Israel kills a Palestinian child, most people recognize that it's America killing that child. What is this guy saying here? Israel should let the aid get in and then bomb them? Yes. And Israel's saying, nah, we're not even going to do that.
Rhetorical statement. It's not about making any kind of threats. It's about seeing the situation reversed. And so that the civilians in Gaza who are not getting adequate access to food and medicine and other humanitarian goods today actually see, as a result of our efforts, a change in their daily lives. And that's what we're focused on achieving, and that's what we are trying to achieve through this letter.
Sure, but I guess what I'm trying to get at, and I'll ask you again, is like, we've been at this for over a year now. You have made these warnings dozens of times, if not more, from this podium. Secretary has done it, President of the United States has done it, and yet we're here. Other outlets have reported, that Reuters has reported all the way back in April, that officials from this department have assessed in internal memos that Israel, quote, is persistently and arbitrarily
Matt Miller, the baby killer,
eating aid in Gaza. So if the law is already being, like, I mean, if it's already doing it, why is the United States waiting?
So, first of all, that is not, so we've been over this before, I know, from this podium. There are people that reach that conclusion, and there are people inside this building who reach the opposite conclusion. So I think it's...
Oh, shit, dude. There's people have reached the opposite conclusion. No, they haven't. No, they haven't. They're just lying, okay? That's it. They're just lying. And it's pretty obvious that they're just lying because virtually not even virtually, every single humanitarian aid organization, international institutions of justice have come to the same exact conclusion after stepping foot inside of Gaza. Israel is not rendering aid to the civilian population of Gaza as they endlessly bomb them, as they move them around the Gaza Strip, tens of thousands of people at a time, and fucking kill them in the process and blow up the fucking safer zones, which is a new distinction. It's not a safe zone because safe zones come with, legal qualifiers of what you can and can't do. So they're calling it safer zones, and then they bomb those safer zones as well. That's it. That's it. Every single institution knows exactly what the fuck is going on, and including, but not limited to, the American State Department. Their own internal memos show this reality. You read all of that, you see all of that, and you go, I don't give a fuck. That's it. The American government under the Trump administration would have done the exact same fucking incompetent bullshit. It's just that the expectation from liberals is that they are supposed to be the adults in the room, They're not.
It's important to state that for the record, that when you have a difficult situation as this, it's not uncommon for people to reach different assessments. Ultimately, if you look at the last year and our record of working to get humanitarian assistance into Gaza, what you've seen is the U.S. intervening at critical moments. Going back to October 12th, let's not forget that, it wasn't October, it was October 16th. So just a few days after October 7th, that the secretary was negotiating with the government of Israel until 2 a.m. in Tel Aviv to get the first trucks.
Aw, dude, it was so hard for him. It was so hard for him. He was trying his besties to fucking get like a truck of flour that has been sitting outside of the fucking boundary. What do you mean, dude? What the fuck are we talking about? Without the United States of America, Israel does not exist. Okay? Every single thing that the Biden administration has done in terms of their bear hug Netanyahu strategy should be viewed from that lens. Without the $20 billion of weapons that we shipped willingly and happily in direct contravention of American laws and international humanitarian laws to a serial violator of human rights, a genocidal apartheid nation state that is conducting a litany of war crimes, including the worst crime of all, genocide. Every single aspect of this conversation it should be read with Biden is directly responsible for it. Okay? That's it. Like, we literally have, as of yesterday, actual boots on the ground. 100 American troops have been deployed into Israel to beef up Israel's anti-ballistic missile systems, okay? Missile defenses. Why are they doing that? Because they want to defend Israel when Israel inevitably does not listen to Joseph Robinette Brandon and fucking blows up nuclear silos or whatever the fuck, and Iran rains down missiles. Will that be successful? Will the 100 new American troops, will the 100 American troops be able to defend against a barrage, a salvo of Iranian hypersonic missiles? I do not know. Probably not. But it doesn't even fucking matter. These guys have dropped the ball so spectacularly that at this point, they don't even give a fuck about not only the hostages in Gaza, that much is obviously clear, but they don't even give a fuck about the civilians living inside of Israel. They do not give a fuck about the potential devastation to the global economy. They just are so one-track minded, so short-sighted on this matter that they are just trying to give Israel as much territorial acquisition as possible before time runs out. It is desperation. I've repeated this when talking about Nazi Germany. I'm sure that there were Nazi generals that were like, well, I mean, I know for a fact that there were Nazi generals that were like, hey, dog, what the fuck are you doing? We're going to assassinate you to Adolf Hitler. There was a plot even internally. Okay. There were probably plenty of people that were like, dude, don't invade Russia. What the fuck? And he was like, 9, I'm going to do that anyway. You can't stop me. Okay. We then turn around and look at that and go, how did they go so wrong? Empires die. Okay. Empires die. Countries make mistakes. Countries are not these infallible, like, overseers that are always making the right tactical, that are always taking the right tactical approach. Even invading Poland was a hard line for a general to secretly turn against Hitler.
Into Gaza. I know you were there. And over the coming months have intervened on multiple occasions when we thought the levels of assistance getting in weren't sufficient, when there were policies that needed to be changed, when there are new gates that needed to be opened. We have intervened to get that to happen. And you've seen those results. You've seen us go from 1 crossing being open to 4 crossings being open. And that is the result of U.S. intervention. Now, to answer your question, we have always said that this is an ongoing process, and our assessments are ongoing. They're not static, they're dynamic. And so when the situation changes, our assessments will change and we'll act accordingly. And that's what we're doing.
Oh, shut the fuck up. I can't deal with this any longer. U.S. tells Israel to up Gaza aid or face arms embargo. The Brand embargo, folks. The new red line. It's here. Remember the Rafah red line?
All roads in this multi-country conflict lead back to Gaza. Last night in the north of Gaza City, paramedics raced through the remnants to the fresh hell of another Israeli strike. Seen, 8 people have been killed. Families are fleeing in the opposite direction. One woman has just lost several nephews, blames Hamas for this. Another woman lost her son, blames Israel. Bodies brought to Al Ahli Hospital for identification. Misery illuminated by mobile phone.
Sadly, honestly, Kamala changing the narrative of the economy, Trump bad, stupid to Israel is a weaker issue for her, but one that has also plummeted in importance, care for the average person. Issue polling had Israel top 3 6 months ago to 10 or lower now. That's not true. It's literally still the 5th most important, according to the NBC poll that we looked at yesterday. And it will get worse. A lot of the defense for liberalism unironically cuts your like future facing analysis short. Okay. I promise you, you do not think about how the public reacts. It's not going to be the same degree as like students getting fucking murked by cops on college campuses. They shut that shit down pretty quickly. However, you cannot reckon with the reality that American mainstream news providers are taking a markedly different tone in their conversations about Gaza and Israel's actions. What do you think that will do to Americans who read that shit? People got burned out. Even News did. CNN has a story halfway down the page. Fox and MSNBC doesn't even have a story on the front page. It don't matter. Do you think Biden coming out with a fucking red line is not going to revitalize the conversation surrounding this issue? That's crazy. Also, yes, issue importance doesn't even matter when polling shows Kamala can gain 5% to 6% from an embargo. Even if it's the 10th most important issue, it's clearly still moved the electorate right now. Every single day that Israel rains hellfire on another group of civilians that are in a fucking tent city outside of a hospital, there are tens of thousands of more Americans who are clued in on this reality and dramatically change their analysis, dramatically change their opinion. Okay? This is like, while on the one hand, I agree with all these people. They said the same thing about April being about Israel protecting civilians, and May said Biden is the Rafah is the red line. They know for months that Israel is deliberately blocking aid. The Biden admin has knowingly violated U.S. and international law all along. This is just an PR stunt. Yes, but what a lot of people what a lot of people are not looking at, even on the pro-Palestinian side, is how people read the Rafah red line. Because Biden coming out and foolishly saying, I have a red line in Rafah, caused the media to cover it. And then Americans looked at it and were like, oh, finally, like Biden is actually doing some enforcement. And then no enforcement came. But more people paid attention to it. When the Democratic Party utilizes the bully pulpit in any direction, isn't simply, oh, we're working tirelessly around a ceasefire. When they move the needle in any direction whatsoever, more Americans are clued in on the actual reality on the ground. That's it. Okay? I'm not talking about like whether Biden is honest about this. Of course he's not. Get the fuck out of here. Okay? Of course he's not. What I'm simply stating is that when Biden says this, the media covers it, and when it doesn't happen, 30-day is also very important for the record. The 30-day time limitation is very important for two reasons. One, the fuck do you mean you have 30 days to keep starving the Gazan population? You have already recognized that like that is a direct violation of international rights and also America's own personal laws surrounding giving arms and weapons to a country that is in direct violation of humanitarian law. Okay. And two, the 30-day mechanism implies that the time limitation goes beyond the election. Biden could have said 1 week. He could have said 2 weeks. He said 30 days. That to me is a genuine fucking fuck you to the Kamala campaign, in my opinion. Yeah, even if people don't care about the humanity or the war, they care about the president being strong. When there's a war going on and he says he's going to stop it, but isn't, he looks weak. And so does Kamala. Trump says he'll end it. They trust him. He's tough. Thank you. Exactly. It's the simplest way to explain it. Americans that do not personally care, Americans that do not personally care about the war or the humanity or the death and destruction, and I'm willing to bet that there are far more Americans that do care, that see it and don't even want to, they don't want to hear about it. You know what I mean? They just want it to end. Some care because like our tax dollars are going to do this. Some care because of the humanity of the situation. Some care because they fancy themselves to be like peaceful doves who don't like war. Okay. But ultimately, the broadest number of Americans look at this and go, you're weak. You're getting dog walked by a country that is much smaller, that is reliant on our tax dollars to exist. I think Kamala will outflank the Biden admin and say they will do a one-day arms embargo. She can't do shit. Biden spokesman at the White House and State Department declined to say the U.S. will restrict arms sales to Israel if it continues to blockade, raising doubts for some about the seriousness of the U.S. warning. Lo and behold, I told you this shit don't matter. Okay? It's a fake fucking red line. But the very fact that he is even saying that there's a red line makes the media cover it. It makes Americans, it reminds Americans that there is some kind of enforcement here at play. And yet, he will not do shit about it, as expected.
Addresses the crowd, asks, why did my brother have to die? Am I dreaming? He is not. The Israeli army has ordered people to evacuate the north of Gaza City as it renews its stated aim to root out Hamas. And with new videos released just yesterday, Hamas's military wing wants the world to still see it as a viable fighting force.
They are. They literally are. Israel hasn't even been able to fucking take down Hamas in these areas. All they've done is kill a fuck ton of civilians. They're still getting their tanks murked. It's Merkava.
Force operating in these neighborhoods. Hamas is a shadow of its former self militarily. But if part of the point of the October the 7th atrocities was to draw in allies in other countries, Hamas have succeeded. Last night, Benjamin Netanyahu spoke to Joe Biden about his retaliatory attack plan after a barrage of Iranian missiles were launched at Israel 2 weeks ago. According to US officials, Netanyahu told the US president that the targets of the upcoming attack will be military ones in Iran, not oil or nuclear facilities. A commitment designed to allay fears of an all-out war between Israel.
Is Hamas diminished? Yeah, of course it is, dude. What the fuck? Like, come on. No shit. What do you mean? Like, they've killed so many fucking people. Of course, even on accident, they are going to end up killing some Hamas militants.
Israel and Iran.
Imagine being in the pocket of Twitch. How sad can you be? You will get what's coming for you. Let's not ban this guy because I want him to talk about this a little bit more. What do you mean by this? Like, do you think I had a hand in getting Asmongold banned or something? Is that what you think? Like, what? Please lean into this a little bit. I would love to hear what you mean. Is there a point in time where you think that like anything that happens in the world that sucks is not related to me? Also, what do you mean about like you will get what's coming for you? Are you gonna fucking kill me? Like, what do you mean? I would love to find out what you're talking about. It's always weird how silent people get when I put them on a fucking podium to platform them. Man made this account 3 years ago just knowing that he would need to sock the hate watch eventually. Yeah, I mean, respect for him planning ahead of time. I like that.
No accident that today the US confirmed that the troops and components of a sophisticated American anti-ballistic missile system have all now arrived in Israel to bolster defenses against Iran's response. Calibrated retaliation is the buzzword. Back where it all began, in Gaza, this is what calibrated sounds like.
From Gaza to Lebanon, where Israel continues to strike across the country as the IDF targets Hezbollah members who've moved beyond their traditional areas. Hezbollah's deputy leader addressed the nation today.
Talking about the 19-year-old Yemeni you had on stream and coming for you is the ban, I guess. Is that what it is? I'm sure that there's like a lot of people who are elevated by this. Because usually the way it works is like everyone looks for blood. Now that Asmongold got banned, I'm sure a lot of people will be out for blood to be like, oh yeah, let's get Hassan banned. Like, let's get a mark here on our end. And I suspect that is what will happen. Yeah. No matter what Twitch says or does, I will repeat this point over and over again. Decorated journalists, like award-winning journalists, including people from the New York Times, have reached out in the aftermath of the interview I conducted with a Yemeni teenager, okay, who many people keep saying is Houthi. He's like killing gay people personally, okay? Like the fucking 17 or 19-year-old Yemeni teenager who only has known genocide. By the way, Yemen did experience genocide. You might not have known about this. That did happen. Human Rights Watch, Amnesty International, and every single NGO has recognized what Saudi Arabia and the UAE did in Yemen as a genocide. Okay. So just because the victim of a genocide is, a survivor of the genocide is like posting shit on Twitter that you don't like personally, or you just don't like appreciate it, does not change that reality. Okay. That is correct. They think you set him up to be banned by interviewing him and how it's hypocritical that you didn't get banned for taking part in that conversation. That's insane. No, nothing that Asmongold said in our conversation is related to his ban. I suspect that, and I didn't even know he was banned until I was live earlier this morning. It was everything he said before I had a conversation with him. I was as cordial as I possibly could be in this circumstance, you can try to brigade it as well as you want, as much as you want. And I might even get fucking banned, right? Twitch might actually cave on this shit. They have done in the past. It does not change the reality of the truth. In terms of the fact that Yemen experienced a genocide, that is correct. In terms of the interview that I conducted being of journalistic worth, that is also correct. Not only did I conduct an interview with this person, also so did the BBC. The New York Times personally reached out to get access to this person. Award-winning, decorated, investigative reporters celebrated this interview as a good thing. Okay? You might not agree with it. You might massage it as much as you want. It's ironic that a conversation that I had about Islamophobia, okay, and the false notion that like every Arab and Arab adjacent or every Muslim person is automatically a terrorist being Islamophobia, ends up with more Islamophobia. Like the counter to that is more Islamophobia. I apologize for my anger. Wait, that's it? You're completely delusional and you people will never win. Simple as. Okay. All right. Cool. Asmongold, in my opinion, in terms of being a massive content creator, is a larger content creator than me. So much so that his alt account is bigger than my main account. If the conversation is about like how much pull I have personally, no, I did not reach out to Twitch to get him banned or anything like that. Okay? Don't be fucking ridiculous. In terms of like his worth to Twitch, he has a higher worth to Twitch than I do in terms of the numbers.
Vowing to continue the fighting, international editor Lindsay Hilsum is in the capital Beirut. Lindsay.
Matt, the Lebanese Prime Minister Najib Mikati said today that he'd been talking to the Americans and they had assured him that Israel was going to lessen its attacks here in Lebanon. Well, there's no sign of that. There were
This lady is awesome. Lebanon, Hezbollah.
Multiple strikes, particularly in the Bekaa Valley overnight. That's one of...
I hate this fucking community. Y'all are intolerable. Joe Biden is like 80 years old. Just let him do a little more genocide, please. He's been a public servant his entire life. Why does it matter to you? You're right. Let Joe Biden get another crumb of genocide, man. Come on. It is fucked up. You're absolutely correct on this. Just let him have it. He's having fun. He's having fun with it. He's enjoying it.
Hezbollah's strongholds and in other places too. More than that, we hear that the Israeli soldiers are beginning to demine the area where Syria, Lebanon, and Israel meet. That's to the east. And the suggestion is that they might be considering or preparing to move over the border into Lebanon from the east as well as from the south. So that's of concern too. Hezbollah's deputy leader, there's still no leader to replace the assassinated Nasrallah, said today that their aim was to inflict more pain on Israel and Israelis. There's no sign here in Lebanon that this war is letting up. Last night, Hezbollah were firing rockets into Israel. They know most will be shot down, but every time one gets through, they see it as a victory. At dawn, smoke was rising over the southern Lebanese town of Taibeh, and Israeli troops were raising their flag at Labouneh, a triumphalist gesture to Hezbollah, which today reiterated that they wouldn't stop fighting before a ceasefire in Gaza.
We were asked to stop the war and move more than 10 kilometers away from the border so as not to provoke Israel, but we insisted on a ceasefire in Gaza.
1,000 kilometers to the east, in the holy city of Karbala in Iraq, they held a funeral for General Abbas Nilforoushan, a senior member of Iran's Revolutionary Guard, killed by the Israelis alongside the Hezbollah leader Hassan Nasrallah in Beirut last month. The mourners held flags of Iraqi Shiite militia, proxies for Iran, just like Hezbollah. This is a war that's reverberating across the region.
The message to the world is that our belief, above all, unites us. We're confronting the Zionist enemy, who is breaching all international norms. We can see how he's killing children and women.
Iran has toy weapons. Imagine thinking they're a real threat to anyone. I mean, Hassan, are you an Iranian proxy yet? Yes. Their toy weapons seemingly were so significant that like America had to bring in 100 troops with our own anti-ballistic missile defense systems into Israel. You only do that when, I guess, you personally think like, nah, Israel's got this on its own.
From Gaza to Lebanon.
A second funeral for the same man was held in Tehran, attended by Ismail Khani, head of the Revolutionary Guard Expeditionary Arm, who had himself at one point also been thought dead. These massive gatherings are designed to show Israel and the US that the Islamic Republic and its proxies remain unbowed, despite Hezbollah's losses and Israel's threats to attack Iran again in the coming days. Such defiance may be less welcome in the largely Christian village of Aitu in northern Lebanon. This morning, rescue workers were still digging out bodies after it was hit by an Israeli strike yesterday. Families had fled here from southern Lebanon seeking safety. We've lost everything, he says. Our clothes, our savings, our personal belongings, nothing is left. Across Lebanon and the region, people who have nothing to do with these battles are caught between forces they can't control, watching all they have built over a lifetime destroyed in a moment.
Yeah, bro, who's destroying the villages? Like, who? Who's destroying? Like, there is no caught between a battle. It's like, no, there's one group that is invading a sovereign nation. That's not fucking Hezbollah. Okay? The group that is invading the sovereign nation here is Israel. The entity that is destroying these villages is Israel. These people are stuck between a rock and a hard place with Hezbollah is ridiculous. Fucking insane, dude.
Fearing how much worse it might get.
Now to the Middle East as the region braces for Israel.
White House pushes for restraint in Israel's response to Iran. Dude, there is nothing funnier than the fucking article that came out on this issue where America said that they were going to try a different technique where they would give money to Israel if they didn't strike the nuclear facilities or the oil refineries. All right? Wonderful stuff. The UK just placed sanctions on 7 Israeli settler orgs and outposts. Most notable of those groups is Amana, possibly the largest and most effective settler organization around right now. These guys are responsible for the innovation of the farms, a newer settlement structure that's helped massively accelerate land takeover and dispossession. They're the second Western country to go after them, joining Canada's sanctions from June. Until America moves in that direction, I will assume that that's ultimately inconsequential. One thing that you have to remember is that those sanctions probably do not extend to the state of Israel actually helping them, because the real problem isn't necessarily the sanctions or the direct money that they get from Western counterparts. But the real problem is that the Israeli government is literally offering them subsidies, literally giving them round-the-clock protection with the IOF, sorry. So, you know, and the big dog in the room is still very much the United States of America. Gabor Mate was on Theo Vaughn. Holy shit, that's crazy. That's dope. That's actually sick. The real interesting part is at 108. Also, Gabor Mate got the fucking reformist Iranian presidential fit going. And he's got the Hasanabi ring game. Respect. He's got it both, dude. Isn't this Aaron's dad? Gabor Mate is, yes, is the father of Aaron and his other, Daniel. Aaron and Daniel's dad. Daniel is a co-host of the Bad Hasbara podcast alongside Matt Lieb, and Aaron is a journalist. I need your thoughts on Max Blumenthal. I am not going to talk about Max Blumenthal right now. Get the fuck out of here. I am not interested in having a conversation about Max Blumenthal, because for all the insane shit that he's done, all of the insane shit that he has done over like the especially the end of the Trump administration, all the anti-vaxxer nonsense. Gray Zone has done a pretty decent job in covering all the stuff that pertains to Israel. He is, I don't necessarily care to comment on any of the things that he is saying. Air Wars released a mini documentary on IDF videos proving they killed civilians in Gaza. If you have time to check this out, sure, we can look at it. Air Wars is great. Don't let Gray Zone talk about anything else, though. Sure, that's fine. That's not, I don't disagree with that statement. Yeah. Unless someone is like directly, anti-Israel because of like overt anti-Semitism, like Candace Owens, I don't, I'm not going to fault people too much. I haven't watched a Gabor clip that I had pulled up. Yes, because you're going to be watching a 3-minute ad break right now. Okay? That's it. Because at the top of the hour, there is a 3-minute ad break coming for you. And it is an avoidable ad break. It is one that you can avoid by subscribing. Okay? However, if you don't have a Twitch Prime, you might be cooked. Just kidding. You can get gifted a sub. Here's the 3-minute ad break now.
Such terrible things as the children in Gaza are experiencing right now with the daily bombings and all this kind of stuff. What can they think? That there's something wrong with me.
Oh, imagine some kid over there in Gaza looking up and there's a bomb, they think, man, I'm so horrible, I deserve to be bombed.
Well, you know what? There was a study done of Gazan children.
Man, that's crazy. I hadn't thought about that. Like, really imagine that, though.
There was a study done of children in Palestine 21 years ago. And 95%, this is long before the current horrors, long before October the 7th, long before the aftermath of October the 7th. 5% of those kids showed traumatic symptoms. High percent.
For people that don't know, Gabor Mate, for the record, is a very prominent anti-Zionist Jewish doctor who has written extensively about, I believe, trauma, right? And he also, of course, happens to be a Holocaust survivor. So before people are, just so you understand, trauma and addiction are the two things that he's written extensively about, I believe. Like that's his most formative, most important work. But beyond that, of course, he himself is not only a Holocaust survivor, but I believe was an early Zionist who very quickly recognized that this was a fascist movement, much like many Jews, okay, who, were around during the time of the Holocaust, including but not limited to Albert Einstein, and has been an outspoken anti-Zionist ever since. Interesting that this video doesn't have the Holocaust Wikipedia page underneath it, as opposed to my video with Asmongold getting hit with that Holocaust explainer that goes to the Wikipedia page. I'm sure they talked about the Holocaust here. Interesting. Gabor got so much hate for his article about a lot of people having a little Nazi in their heads. It was such a good article because it speaks on what you maybe spoke about in the past, that everybody has a little bigot that they have to kill off. Oh yeah, that was really interesting. That people were on Twitter. People yell at anybody for anything. Okay, people were yelling at a Holocaust survivor for writing an article about how like everyone has a little bit of a bigot inside of them that they have to combat with regular frequency. They were like, not me, sweaty. Speak for yourself. Baby during the Holocaust and during the founding of Israel in 47, born in 44. Yes, I know. And in his early years, he talked about being a Zionist, if I'm not mistaken, and very quickly recognized, oh shit, never mind. This sucks. This sucks pretty bad. He probably saw the invention of Israeli EDM and was like, I'm out. As a teenager, he encountered the first version of Israeli techno and was like, not for me, sir. A nation state project that creates such a heinous act, such a heinous display, is not one that is interested in advancing humanity. He said, not in my name. He said, I've written extensively about childhood trauma, but no one could recreate the childhood trauma that I experienced when Israel invented their version of EDM. Truly a heinous act.
Managed with their beds, like you and I did.
Is because Holocaust studies have been described as Holocaust comparison, which is then called Holocaust minimization and then Holocaust denial. So I think your Anne Frank comparison got you the Wikipedia tag. Yeah. Anne Frank obviously was a victim of the Holocaust, which is a genocide. Me saying that another victim of a genocide who is a survivor of genocide is similar is not a ridiculous comparison. Okay? It is not to minimize the Holocaust at all. There is no reason to study genocides or the Holocaust specifically if you are not going to learn lessons from it and then apply them to ongoing genocides right now. The entire purpose of never again means never again for anybody, not never again just for Jewish people. That's ridiculous, and you will never find a Holocaust historian that agrees with that principle. I see you there. You lurking weirdo chatter trying to spin with Hasana saying it's in real time. Yeah.
They expressed aggression towards their parents. They had panic attacks, anxiety, fears. Can you imagine what's going to happen to that generation
years from now?
Years from now. I mean, it just breaks my heart
He said it's like we're watching Auschwitz on TikTok and he can appeal to it given his own experience.
every day when I think about it.
Interesting that didn't get the YouTube markers in the way that I did.
And I know a lot of my fellow Jews don't agree with me, but as a Jewish person, I'm not the only one who feels that way. It especially breaks my heart.
Yeah.
You know?
Well, when you put it in that sense, that a kid, imagine a kid like, because what are they going to think? They don't know. They just think, man, something's so wrong with me. I deserve to be killed.
Yeah.
Or something. I don't know. Yeah.
It depends if the adults are able to hold them and keep them feeling loved. But 19,000 kids have been orphaned. And when I say orphaned, I don't mean just that their parents have died. Their extended families have been wiped out.
Why are you saying this video not getting the tag is interesting? Because a lot of these institutions still participate in Islamophobia, which is internalized and baked into every fucking institution. And when you got a dude named Hassan talking about the victim of a genocide who also happens to be Muslim in Yemen, when the overarching position is that like they kind of deserve it, you're gonna get slapped with a misinformation sticker. That's the difference.
What's going to be the future of those kids? And
not that it matters.
It's just
like I personally don't give a shit if they slap it with the marker, because I did invoke it, I did bring it up, and I'm glad that people are going to the Holocaust Wikipedia to read about the Holocaust. Like I don't, hopefully they're doing this.
Just a terrible.
No, it's heartbreaking. I mean, it feels like a genocide is going on over there, and you don't know what to do. It's like, I mean, you can pray, you can speak up about it. And I know that there's like a more political aspects of it. And we've had different people come on to talk about Israel and Palestine on here. And it was very knowledgeable for a lot of our listeners, because you hear about it a lot, but you don't know the history and everything. But
well, I've been there. I went there 2.5 years ago to work with Palestinian women.
Most people thought you were saying the genocide was what Israel was doing, not about the Yemeni genocide. It's just ignorance. Yeah, except Israel is doing a genocide in Gaza as well. So even if they misunderstood my point, it does not matter, because it would still stand. Also, the Yemeni teen is not the only genocide survivor that I have had on this broadcast. I had Motaz Aziza, who is also a genocide survivor. He is a genocide survivor of Israel, okay?
Tortured in Israeli jails.
Wow.
And they had post-traumatic stress disorder. I've seen it with my own eyes. And who's the black American writer, Ta-Nehisi Coates?
Ta-Nehisi Coates?
Yeah. He just written a new book. And he talks about visiting Palestine. And he says, Ta-Nehisi Coates, in his new book, he says, once you go there and see it, you can't unsee it, And
our media doesn't cover it super fairly.
Yeah.
I feel like our media doesn't cover it super fairly. That'd be.
Yeah. I mean, dude, it's fine. He's got the energy. It's in the right place. He's fucking interviewing Gabor Mate, a very prominent anti-Zionist. We will never be able to understand the harm. We live in the lap of luxury. We will never be able to comprehend the traumas that children go through. Gabor's story is actually really fascinating because he speaks directly on how the psychological impact of surviving the Holocaust drew him closer to the Zionist narrative of these so-called new strong Jews who were no longer ashamed. He read a terrible book, by the way, called Exodus by Leon Uris, and was instantly sucked in. It was actually the experience of seeing international media cover the Vietnam War that made him question Zionism. I'm working to try to get Ta-Nehisi on, but you have to understand, these guys are not very online, and he has no fucking clue. From what I understand, he has no clue what Twitch is, who I am. Like, he has no idea. So I've reached out directly to people that he talks to on a regular basis. Has Theo asked you to come on? No. Anyway, let's continue. White House pushes restraint in Israel's response to Iran.
To retaliate for Iran's missile barrage earlier this month, White House trying to prevent the situation from spiraling into all-out war. Foreign correspondent James Longman is on the scene in Lebanon. Good morning, James.
Yeah, good morning, George. I'm at the strike site of another Israeli strike here in Lebanon. Take a look. This was a family home. 16 people of one family were killed here. We're told a 3-story building just reduced. But we are up in the mountains here in Lebanon. This is traditionally a place of safety in this country. Nowhere feels safe anymore. We're told some 25% of Lebanon is now under evacuation orders by the Israelis. That's according to the United Nations. This is as this region braces for Israel's response to Iran's October 1st attack, where it fired some 180 missiles at Israel. ABC understands that Israel has been receptive to the Biden administration's arguments for restraint, i.e. not hitting oil or nuclear sites inside Iran. But Israel has been very clear that they will make their own decision. This is as the United States is still sending that advanced missile defense system to Israel, along with
what you're making fun of is basically what happened with Avi Shlaim when he was on the program with 2 idiots. Mike Graham Boots, emeritus professor at Oxford University, and Avi Shlaim off his show after he denied that anti-Semitism is occurring on campuses and claimed Israel's not a democracy. Avi, Israel's an apartheid regime. Mike, you are denying the truth. It's so funny to say that to Avi Shlaim. Like, come on, dude. Come on. Like, yeah, I get why you could fucking yell at a dude named Hassan if he were to say such things, but his name is Avi Shlaim. Like, that should clue you in, okay? Avi Shlaim, for the record, is, of course, a fantastic historian. He's one of the new historians. He's one of the new historians that wrote specifically about, he is an Iraqi Jew, and wrote specifically about, like, Israel's campaigns in, like, Mossad's campaigns in Iraq. And you know, again, wild to look at a guy like Avi Shlaim and be like, sweetie, I think maybe I know more about Israel than you do. Maybe I know about more about anti-Semitism than you do. I mean, he lived in Israel, didn't he? Isn't this the guy who said you can grow concrete?
Mike.
Yes. What a fucking mythical pull it is. Yeah, he is Israeli. He grew up at a time when, like, I think Arab Jews, like Iraqi Jews, Mizrahi Jews were facing a shit ton more discrimination from broader Israeli society too.
Troops to man it. And we're also watching the situation in Gaza. It's truly going from bad to worse. There was a hospital which was hit in an airstrike. A fire broke out in a tent encampment. Truly horrific scenes there. And in the north, people tell us there that they feel they're under siege. They've been cut off from food, from water, from medical supplies, all in an effort, they say, to force them from their homes. Michael?
All right, James, thank you so much for that.
Speaker Pelosi, welcome back to our program.
Wonderful to be here. Thank you.
Let me ask you first, before we get to your book, about current affairs. We've just had this terrible report about the Israeli strikes on Gaza and Lebanon. Now, as they continue their counteroffensives, we've seen an attack on UN peacekeepers in Lebanon, and we've seen over the weekend some pretty dire attacks on refugee camp, on various areas that dozens have been killed, including children. I just wonder your response to that, given America is the most important ally.
Well, the fact is that we just a few days ago observed a 1-year anniversary of a terrible assault on Israel by Hamas, a terrorist group dedicated to the destruction of Israel. Sadly, since then, we've seen many casualties of non-combatants, children and families in Gaza, and now some elsewhere in the region. And it's just intolerable. War has to be outlawed as a resolution of any conflict or disagreement. But right now, we have to live with the circumstances that we have. We've all been talking about a two-state solution for a long time.
When your goat is washed, yeah, it's intolerable, but thank God they have the tolerance for it. You know what I mean? They just always find a way to tolerate it.
Time for Israel and for the Palestinians.
Do you guys understand why for months and months I was very critical of Bernie Sanders for acting like fucking history started on October 7? Like, do you understand why? Because it's false. It's not the truth. And beyond the fact that it's not the truth, it serves a very important propagandistic purpose, okay? The purpose of it is to basically make it seem like Hamas did something that is truly heinous out of nowhere. That's it. Like, they started it. They were the reason why Israel is doing what it's doing right now. If you recognize history starting on October 7, then yeah, you think like, okay, maybe Israel has gone a little bit overboard in its retaliation, but like Hamas started it, causes you to basically refuse to recognize that what Israel is doing right now is just a continuation, an acceleration of what it has been doing for 76 years. The second lie is that Israel does not have a right to defend itself in the way that it is defending itself, in air quotes, in Gaza or Lebanon, but especially Gaza. Israel is a belligerent occupier of Gaza. It is a territory that it controls with military occupation. It does not have a right to defend itself. It doesn't work like that. It is a direct violation of the rules. There is no defensive genocide. So those are two pivotal ways in which many of these people have basically repackaged what Israel is doing as like, it's kind of permissible, but like maybe they're going a little overboard. Like, no, the occupation is illegal. And that's not just my analysis. That is the analysis of every single human rights organization, and also recently reiterated by the International Court of Justice.
Current leader in Israel does not agree to that, even though for about 30 years, since like 93, we have been talking about that. I don't know if Netanyahu wants peace. I don't know if he's capable of peace. I don't know if he's afraid of peace, but he has gone off the course that we all thought we were in.
I don't know why I got nuked for asking a genuine question about your podcast partner on YouTube, calling himself the Z word on Instagram. It's because he's not my podcast partner. That's it. That's why you got nuked. And there's no reason to fucking bring it up.
As we support Israel.
He actually came to the Congress not so long ago. What did you make of that invitation and the way he spoke against your party and your administration?
Well, it wasn't his first time to do that. He came before. The invitation was misrepresented. It wasn't bipartisan, but the speaker said it was, and so he showed up and spoke against President Obama, whose masterful, virtuoso initiative for the Iran nuclear agreement was remarkable. He came and spoke against our president and our Congress. It was terrible. It was disgraceful. This speech that...
Yeah, it was disgraceful. Yeah, I hated it so much that instead of giving $25 billion, we only gave $20 billion of weapons. That'll surely stop them. Okay? Do you understand? Imagine paying more attention to a witch than Gabor. I'm sorry. I love Gabor Mate. I think he's brilliant. I think he's very thoughtful. But we agree on everything. And also, he is not the Speaker Emerita of the American Congress, okay? Or the American House of Representatives. You know, we got to move on to continue coverage on things that are happening currently.
He made recently, I thought, was the worst presentation ever made by a leader of a country invited to speak before the Congress. I was against the...
Look at all the fucking Dems clapping, too. You fucking cackling hyenas. Also, Obama gave $30 billion after Netanyahu did that stunt. Yup. Number one Jew hater, by the way, Barack Obama. Barack Hussein Obama. Yeah. Hates the Jewish state. He hates the Jewish state and hates the Jews. Everyone knows Barack Obama, Barack Hussein Obama, hated the Jewish state so much that he only gave us $30 billion.
The invitation, but I'm not the speaker anymore. And of course, I did not attend, but I did.
What Nick thinks of you?
Who in your eyes is like Barack?
Hassan?
No!
So in your eyes...
Well, he says that, but he means it in a nice way. Most Americans don't view Barack Obama in the way that I view Barack Obama. Like, I don't think he means like I'm a war criminal that would have fucking exploded a Doctors Without Borders hospital in Kunduz, okay? That's not what he means, chat. Calm down. He's not saying I would extrajudiciously kill an American citizen with a targeted fucking strike, okay? He's not saying that. He's not saying that I'd be the drone king and the deportation king. despite running a very progressive campaign. He's not saying that I would lie to the American public about closing Guantanamo Bay only to say, guess what? We're not going to do that. He's not saying that I would never prosecute former administration's torturers and war criminals, and saying we must not look backward. We must look forward. And pussy too. Yeah, I think he means I can ball like Barack Obama.
Damn, this guy's good.